Najeb Bouhbouh was the kind of man people described with one word: connected. Born in Amsterdam to Moroccan parents, he grew up in neighborhoods where loyalty was currency and silence was survival. By his 30s, he wasn't just another street hustler. He was the man others called when money or product went missing. Calm voice, iron nerves, always in control. But control is an illusion, and in his world, illusions die fast. He never liked the spotlight. While others showed off cars and watches, Najeb preferred to move quietly. His power was built on trust, the kind that's bought with risk and blood. He worked closely with another heavyweight, Gwinnett Martha, and together they formed one of the most feared partnerships in the Dutch underworld. Everything began with one mistake: a container of cocaine that vanished at the port of Antwerp. Hundreds of kilos, worth millions, gone without a trace. The loss wasn't just financial, it was personal. It meant betrayal. Someone had stolen from the wrong people. Antwerp looked calm. Polished streets, quiet cafes, slow-moving trams. But beneath the surface, it was a battleground. Every ship that docked at its port carried two things: cargo and conflict. Men like Najeb knew that every smile could be a setup. One evening, Najeb's phone buzzed. A familiar voice, friendly, casual, invited him to a short meeting at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Antwerp. "Just to talk," the man said. Najeb agreed. Why wouldn't he? In his world, refusing a meeting could be seen as fear, and fear was a weakness. That afternoon, the Crown Plaza lobby smelled of coffee and rain. Security cameras watched guests come and go, unaware that one of them was walking toward his own execution. Najeb checked his messages, straightened his jacket, and walked out into the soft drizzle. As he stepped outside, two men approached from across the parking lot. They weren't guests. They weren't friends. The first shot shattered the silence. The second ended it. Najeb Bouhbouh collapsed beside his car, blood spreading beneath him like a signature on asphalt. The news hit Amsterdam like a grenade. Phones lit up across the city. Voices that were once calm began to shake. Everyone wanted to know the same thing: who ordered the hit? The murder of Najeb Bouhbouh wasn't just a killing. It was a declaration of war. Investigators quickly learned that Najeb had been lured to Antwerp. The meeting was a setup. A man named Chris Bouhman had arranged it, and text messages between Bouhman and others painted a chilling picture. Every step, every move had been planned. The name Benaouf A. Adaoui began to surface. Police found messages that tied him to the plot. He wasn't the shooter, but he was the spider in the web. Orders flowed through him, quiet, unseen, deadly. Phone records told the story better than anyone. Minutes before Najeb was shot, a message was sent. "We are on our way." That was the green light, the signal that sealed his fate. Before the courts could hear the full story, one of the key suspects, Chris Bouhman, took his own life in prison. The truth he carried died with him, and the silence that followed was louder than any confession. Najeb's murder unleashed chaos. Gwinnett Martha, his ally and friend, was furious. What began as revenge for a missing shipment became a blood-soaked cycle that left Amsterdam's streets trembling. Every killing carried the echo of Najeb's last breath. The first retaliation came months later. Bullets answered bullets. Men were hunted in cafes, cars, and gyms. Antwerp had lit the fuse, but Amsterdam would pay the price. On the 29th of December 2012, in the Amsterdam district of Stadsliedenpoort, gunmen opened fire on a car believed to be carrying Benaouf A. He escaped. Two others didn't. The message was clear. No one was untouchable. Behind the calm faces of cafe owners and neighbors, fear grew. Everyone knew someone connected to someone. The war was no longer hidden. It was happening in broad daylight. For years, the Dutch police had watched the Macro Mafia from the shadows. Now, they couldn't wait anymore. Wiretaps, surveillance, cross-border cooperation. Belgium and the Netherlands formed a single net. But it was already dripping with blood. Investigators traced a black BMW linked to the killers. It was the same model seen near the Crown Plaza that day. Ownership records, GPS data, and phone pings formed a trail that led back to familiar names. In 2014, Bouhbouh A stood trial. The prosecutors painted him as the invisible hand behind the murder. He denied it all. Calm, expressionless, like a man rehearsed for years in lying to survive. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The judges said he didn't pull the trigger, but he helped make it happen. The sentence was later increased to 12 years. Justice had spoken, but the streets had their own version of justice. The man who once ruled alongside Najeb didn't live much longer. Gwinnett Martha was hunted and killed in 2014. His murder was payback, another chapter in the endless chain Najeb's death had started. Amsterdam's nights changed. Once loud streets became quiet. Expensive cars drove slower. People watched mirrors more than roads. Fear became part of daily life. Invisible, but everywhere. In 2017, reports surfaced about a wild plan. A helicopter escape for Bouhbouh A from prison. It was stopped just in time. The plan showed how desperate and powerful his network still was. As old names disappeared, Najeb, Gwinnett, Bouhbouh, younger faces rose to power. They were more reckless, less disciplined. To them, violence was language, and Najeb's murder was grammar. Staff at the Crown Plaza still remember the sound. The echo of shots, the panic, the man lying in the rain. They still talk about that day when a regular guest walked out and never came back. Antwerp had seen crime before, but this was different. It was surgical, international, and cold. The police called it organized execution. The press called it the start of the Macro Mafia War. Over the next few years, police operations cracked down on gang leaders. Arrests multiplied. Hidden mansions, coded phones, money trails. Everything was suddenly exposed. Behind every gangster's name was a mother's story. Najeb's family, like many others, lived in silence, their grief swallowed by headlines. The war had no heroes, only victims. Some thought that if they got rich enough, the past would forget them. But the underworld has a long memory. Every euro earned through betrayal carries a curse. Even today, in some cafes of Amsterdam West, you can hear his name whispered. Not with anger, not with pity, but with respect. Najeb Bouhbouh, the man whose death started it all. For police, the case showed how phones, cars, and messages could map a murder. For criminals, it showed how quickly loyalty could turn into a coffin. In those days, a phone call at night was enough to freeze the heart. People no longer trusted meetings, messages, or even friends. Everyone remembered what happened to Najeb. He answered one call, and that was the end. Surveillance cameras, police patrols, and community fear created a new Amsterdam, one where everyone looked twice before speaking. Silence became safety. Najeb's death wasn't just a story for tabloids. It became the case study that shaped how modern gang wars were understood in Europe. Networks, revenge, and digital footprints. In Gwinnett's inner circle, Najeb's empty seat was a warning. No one wanted to sit there again. The men who didn't last long. Some police officers who worked on the case later said it was the most chilling murder they'd seen. Not because of how it happened, but because of how calmly it was planned. Even after the sentences, questions remained. Who gave the final order? Who paid for the bullets? Some names were whispered, never proven. The case remains a riddle with missing pieces. From Amsterdam to Antwerp, from Rotterdam to Marbella, the shockwaves of Najeb's death crossed countries. Europe's drug routes became war routes. Books, documentaries, and news reports later turned the case into legend. But legends lie. The truth is simpler. One man trusted the wrong voice, and a bullet wrote history. In the end, Najeb Bouhbouh became a symbol, not of power, but of warning. The question his story asks is this: when you live by loyalty, but everyone around you is hungry for power, how long before they aim at you?